In this video, we have reverse Karens, Karens from hell, cheating Karens, and even a Karen in recovery. Redditors who are married to Karens. How is it like? My mom is a literal Karen, as in it's in her name, but she's like a bizarro Karen. She will constantly ask to speak with managers and supervisors and bosses. But when said managers arrive, she unloads about how the employee helping her out was fantastic, hardworking, and friendly, and then she'll spend the next 20 minutes trying to figure out if she and the manager know someone in common. 9 out of 10 times, they do. As a kid, it would embarrass me. As an adult, it's one of my favorite things about her. She makes people feel good about the work they do, and it's really special to watch how wonderful she makes people feel. Plus, she's got long, gorgeous silver hair. Story 2. Not married to a Karen, but married someone with a Karen for a sister. Sister-in-law is the freaking worst. I hate more than anything going out to dinner with her, listening to her order food, and talk to the servers. Holidays are also terrible. She sends out long lists of expected gifts. She celebrates every holiday and birthday specifically for presents, even when it's not appropriate. Funny thing is, one time I was away from the dinner table when the bill came, and sister-in-law waited for me to return to pay the bill by actually handing it to me. She didn't give it to her sibling / my significant other or pay her half, but expressly handed it to me to pay. By the way, her husband is an idiot, and they are a match made in heaven. Story 3. Not married to one, but my mom's a Karen. Literally overreacts to everything. Whenever something doesn't go her way, you guessed, gotta speak to the manager or whoever is in charge. Sometimes really embarrassing to go out in public with her because she'll just yell at the service workers for the smallest of things. Also, she has a bob cut. Story 4. Not married to one, but my aunt is. My uncle is this soft-spoken giant. He never stands up to her in any way, except once. At their daughter's wedding, she was about to interrupt the ceremony to close a window because she was chilly. Everyone sitting close could hear her whisper, "I'm going to do it, but I don't want to be an ass." My uncle, in a calm, quiet tone, says quickly, "Why stop now?" Almost as if his filter just missed this one. I swear I could hear my dad snort 2 rows back trying to hold in laughter. Karen was not happy. Story 5. My mom's a Karen. She is self-aware she is a Karen. My siblings and I send her memes about it. When my stepdad divorced her last summer, we were all amazed he lasted 17 years, to be honest. None of us like going out with her. It's terrible, and my husband just straight up tells her, "No, you aren't talking to the manager when we go in a place." I'll tell you guys a story my step told us. They are farmers and own a small beef and bee farm. They have a store they go to for bee supplies. The owner called my stepdad and asked him to please be the one to pick up their stuff because his staff was tired of dealing with my mom. He is the only one who went to the store for the next 5 years. Story 6. My mom is a Karen. She thinks the world is supposed to cater to her, serve her, and everyone else is wrong. Once we went to Carl Jr.'s, she ordered 4 burgers for the 4 of us. She pulls one out the bag while the guy is getting our drinks and hides it. She complains that he forgot a burger. She pulls them out one by one and counts it in front of him. It's obviously missing because she hid it, and he's swearing up and down he put them all in the bag. I'm stunned, speechless, and it happened so fast. She got a free burger and laughed as we drove off. I'm just staring at her, and she opens it up to eat on the way home. And she ate her actual burger like the 5th one never existed. I can't even begin to explain how she is when she's in the hospital. She treats it like a luxury stay in a hotel. Story 7. Not married. 4 years of a toxic relationship, though. I broke up with her on Monday. Again. We're kind of screwed financially because of this lockdown, so we're just feeling things out for a month before we decide for sure. This cycle is on repeat. I constantly have to cut her off and speak over her because of the way she treats people. Waiters, sales assistants, gym staff, neighbors, landlords, randoms we meet in bars, etc. Note, we were both waiters at the beginning of our relationship, so she has worked in the industry, but still lacks empathy. She blames the waiter if something is out of stock and stuff like that. My second major issue, we are both English second language teachers. She teaches kindergarten while I teach high school. Now that we are working from home, I hear how she speaks to her students, and it's really opened up another aspect of her personality that I don't like. She will berate a student for not understanding instead of evaluating her ability to explain. Crapping on 3-year-olds in their second language just doesn't fly with me. A lot of her behavior stems from a self-defense mechanism due to insecurity, but that's not an excuse. She doesn't realize how mean she is to people, including myself. I'm a people pleaser that would rather sacrifice my own comfort than someone else's. She expects me to be an ass to people because I'm a biggish guy with tattoos. I don't exactly look soft. It's toxic as hell. Please help. Story 8. I dated a Karen for a while. Yes, the booty is the reason I stayed as long as I did. Let me guess. When she realizes she's not just being basic and she's raised your dander from annoyance to, girl, what is wrong with you? That's when the flirty side comes out. Like, she realized that she's crossed the line and so now it's time to fog your mind with amazing banging the instant she can. That's an easy formula for things to turn toxic. She's associated banging with calming you down after she's pissed you off. So, if she's in the mood, clearly she has to piss you off first, so there's something she can do to make it up to you. Meanwhile, every time she pisses you off, in the back of your head, there's a part of you that likes it because, hey, for however long you're pissed off right now, this is going to end in an amazing hookup. How can you hold a grudge? Get out of there, man! How many Admiral Akbar gifts do you need to cut things off for good? Story 9. Not married, but dated a male Karen for 8 years. He was a semi-successful business owner who was twice my age and I was young and dumb, for a lack of a better word. The gist of our relationship was him trying to take over every part of my life. For instance, he would order for me at restaurants and would dissuade me if I wanted to try something new. If I had a problem with something, it would be brushed off, but if he had a problem, then he had to talk to a manager. Not knowing any better, I just thought he was very particular and even started copying some of his tendencies, like speaking up when I felt like I wasn't getting the right service when I was out on my own. I realized who he was when we were flying back from Vegas and our luggage was heavier than when we flew in. Obviously, we'd bought the extra things, which made up for the weight difference, so as he demanded to know an explanation from the check-in clerk as to why the same luggage would somehow weigh more, I innocently answered that it must have been the extra shoes and clothes. He was quiet and paid up. Later, he told me not to do that again, as he knew why the luggage was heavier. He was just trying to get away with not paying. At that moment, a bulb went off in my head. This man, who'd spent $1,500 on a stripper for his friend, was making an already stressful job more stressful for the clerk in order to avoid paying $60. We broke up soon after, and I checked myself on the Karen tendencies he rubbed off on me. Story 10. Engaged to one. She was raised as a princess by her military-raised father. However, she's super down-to-earth, but God forbid you work in the service industry and mess something up. She worked at IHOP during college, so it humbled her compared to her family. She just writes reviews now, good or bad, and emails corporate to complain. If something is wrong with my food, she refuses me to sit there and eat it, which I hate, but I have gotten her better about it, I believe, so maybe she's just a recovering Karen at this point. Story 11. I'm not married to a Karen, but someone in my family decided to make a Karen family, and let me just say, it is freaking hell. I do not go to any social events if said Karen will be there. Keeps the peace in my family, to be honest. Nor do I go alone with Karen. She is a nightmare to everyone in her path, from car guards to cashiers, even her friends. No one can be better than her or smarter than her, and she's just freaking exhausting, man. The worst part is, her kids are becoming just like her. Story 12. Was married to a male Karen. Everything, and I mean everything, could set him off. We were at a local tap room and his iPhone automatically connected to the Wi-Fi. Keep in mind, he had full bars on our cell service. The Wi-Fi was being wonky and wasn't working. The manager, super nice guy, comes over and asks how we are doing, while he washes some glasses in the dish pit on the other side of the bar. The following conversation ensues. Keep in mind, my husband is super irritated at this made-up problem because our cell service is working just fine and he can literally just turn off the Wi-Fi. Husband, your Wi-Fi is effing trash. Manager, I'm sorry, we recently upgraded our internet and Cox is sending us a new modem. It's supposed to be here this week. Husband, if you say you have Wi-Fi, you should make sure it actually works. Manager, I know. I'm sorry, I'd be happy to restart the modem to see if that helps. Husband then ignores him and continues to talk under his breath about a made-up issue. This was my life for almost 5 years. The sense of entitlement was frustrating enough in public, but more so at home. I'd apologized to more servers, retail workers, neighbors, and random people in public for him in 5 years than the rest of my life outside of him. You know what? Now that I'm talking about it, maybe he's not so much of a male Karen. He's more like a piece of garbage. Story 13. My mom is a bit of a Karen, and we're pretty much no contact now, so that should tell you everything you need to know. Wherever we'd go out to eat, it's always too cold. They don't have the brand of sparkling water she likes. They've put ice in her drink when she didn't want it. She always has to make some kind of modification to her order, etc. The list goes on. It got to the point where if we were out shopping and she said she needed to return something, I'd just go somewhere else because I couldn't stand watching her be rude and argue with the staff. My parents are divorced and I live with my dad now instead. Part of the reason I barely see my mom is because I'd have to meet her in public, go for a coffee or something, and I just can't deal with the way she behaves in these places, so I don't go. Story 14. Not married to a Karen, but my mom is a Karen whose name is actually Karen. Simply put, I haven't seen her in over a year because I couldn't take it anymore. Living with her was just an exhausting nightmare. Karen's world revolves around Karen. Nobody else's issues matter. If you tell her that you had a bad day, she'll give you 20 reasons why her day was worse. You worked 60 hours this week? Well, when she was your age, she would work 80. You're in the hospital after having major surgery? She has a pinched nerve in her arm, which is somehow worse. Your boyfriend cheated on you? She couldn't begin to tell you about all the heartbreak she's experienced in her life. She complains left and right about anything and everything. If you're taking a week break after just getting back from college, she'll ask you why you haven't gotten a job yet and claim you're lazy. If you're out to eat at a restaurant, the food is always too cold or too burnt or too salty. You can only ever go to the places she wants to go because everything else is crap. My entire graduation dinner, she complained about how cold the food was. She thrives in getting attention and constantly seeks it, but she has very few actual friends. Facebook is her lifeblood, and she's always looking to start something on there. She's the queen of sharing uninformed, misguided, conservative propaganda, which always starts fights in her comments. Also, if a tragedy happens in the family, like the passing of my teenage cousin, she'll make a big scene on Facebook and expect condolences from anyone and everyone, and makes note of the people who don't give her what she wants. Don't even get me started on the blatant racism. I've heard everything from, watch out for black people on the subway, they'll try to take your purse, to, it should be illegal for those Muslims to cover their faces. You should be able to see everyone's face. One of my best friends is black, and she once told me, he's one of the good ones. They should all be like him. Ugh. Minor, but the house always has to be spotless. You have a shirt on your bedroom floor? Pick it up. You kids are all slobs. We have people coming over. No, we don't, and even if we do, why would they be going into my bedroom? Her house is her house, and she'll let you know. Any object she has spent money on doesn't belong to you, it belongs to her. She also spends way too much money on home decor, like oriental rugs, furniture, etc., but then complains about how she has no money. Story 15. I'm divorcing a Karen. Nothing was ever good enough. Everything had to be the most expensive thing, and even then it wasn't good enough. It was exhausting, and it sucked the passion I had for life right out of me. Edit. Slept on this and thought of some more telltale signs. She never said nice things about me, or to other people. My best friend came over for a barbecue with his wife and kids, and her mother just mocked me the whole time to my friend's wife. My friend's wife confronted them about it. Even on our wedding day, the part where you say nice things sounded like a tentatively warm school report card. The nicest thing I remember her saying about me was, I like how you make the salads. It's better than how I make it. The whole time, that's the best I can think of. Story 16. Best friend married a Karen. This woman is a whole different level of Karen. She makes a large 6-digit salary but has to work cycle shift away from home. She has the option to move from home so they can live as a family but refuses because she has what she calls a career. She sells scents and works a clerk job at an HR office. They have 2 kids. She can't handle them. She makes him drive home from work every day so she can work out for 30 minutes in the evening. It's a 7-hour commute. He had to buy another vehicle because he couldn't take the company vehicle back and forth. So expensive and dangerous. There's too many things. Here's some. A. When she's working at home, she has to leave the house with the kids and can't come back until she says it's okay. B. Insane spending habits on unnecessary stuff. Amazon, Scentsy, and other MLM products. C. Any negative things that happen in her life is his fault, and he has to fix it immediately, no matter the cost. D. She texts and calls him every 10 minutes at work to complain about him being away from home and how the kids drive her crazy. E. She made him buy a luxury camper so she can visit him at work. Came one time. F. She puts the kids in daycare even though it costs them more than she financially makes. G. Wants more kids. H. Wants huge renovations done but refuses to watch the kids while he does them. He has to watch them while working. Nothing gets done, and that gives her anxiety and stress. I. Makes him tend job fairs in hopes that he'll find a job making just as much money. It won't happen, but he does it anyway to please the demands. It frustrates me because my time with him has literally become therapy sessions where he vents for hours. It's brutal, and I hate that he tolerates it. The one that gets me the most is that she'd rather pretend to have a really good career than move with him so they can have a really great family lifestyle. They'd save lots of money, and they would be a much better parenting team. Story 17. When I first met my wife, she was beautiful in every single way. I remember looking at her when we walked around a lake, and as she spoke to the ducks, I thought, I'm going to marry this beautiful Snow White. She loved all animals, and they loved her right back. Her soul was pure. She looked like a queen in everything she wore, be it jeans or a sundress. She was never a princess-type woman. She was always destined to be my queen. She demanded love and respect because that was what she deserved. I'm not sure when she changed, but slowly and surely she did. She humiliates me, she belittles me, and she saddens me. I'll never be right or even acknowledged to have a valid point or opinion. She wastes money that I work hard to earn. She has strategically spaced out our pregnancies to maximize the time she doesn't have to return to paid work. She has admitted this. Why don't I leave her? Better the devil you know, huh? Story 18. Sister-in-law is a Karen, and her name is very close to Karen. One of her most recent masterpieces is this. Her daughter, my niece, had a big choir performance one night. My family, her family, and my father-in-law and mother-in-law were going to meet for dinner and then go to the show. My neighbor owns a very nice Italian restaurant in town, and he arranged for us to have a big table ready when we got there. We, my family of 4, are halfway to the restaurant when my wife decides to check in with her sister with a text message. Sister-in-law, Karen, immediately calls back and casually says she's running late. She is always late, and that it would be best if we drove to their house to pick them up. To this day, I don't understand how that will help us when she's already late, and we had a rather tight window to have dinner, but Karen throws a fit when my wife pushes back. So we turn around, pick them up, and drive to the restaurant. We sit down and she scans the menu, scans, and asks the waitress questions, tells her a couple times she's not ready to order and needs a few minutes. Meanwhile, we are all openly reminding her that we are on a tight window. Doesn't matter, Karen will not be rushed. It should be noted that my neighbor's restaurant has a single-page menu that doesn't change, and Karen has been to this restaurant many times. By the time she decides what she wants to order, we realize we will now not have time to eat. She gives all sorts of garbage to the waitress, demanding to-go boxes for our meals that are now just being served. My neighbor then came to our table to figure out what was going on, and she immediately stood up to try and explain what was going on and threw the waitress under the bus. As we were leaving, I pull my neighbor and the waitress aside to tell them what really happened, profusely apologize, tell them it was absolutely not their fault. Story 19. Early in our marriage, I started seeing some Karen tendencies in my wife. It started because companies were legitimately jerking us around on things we needed, and she was trying to be more assertive. Initially, she had it compartmentalized. She'd turn it on when we needed it and turn it off once things were getting resolved. But she started losing her ability to keep this segmented, and this entitlement mindset started bleeding into other interactions. It never got too bad, but I didn't like the direction it was headed. I finally said something one night after she'd gone into a store to return something and came back out to the car telling about how she gave the employee a talking to about how terrible the return policy was. So I just asked her, an hourly employee with no say in the matter upheld the company policy as she was trained to do, and you thought it was appropriate to give her a talking to for that? How do you think that made her feel? What would you have done differently if you had her job? Was it worth ruining someone's day over this? Do you feel better that you made her feel bad or worse? Is that how you want people to remember you? All the while I was circling back to the store. I parked the car and said something to the effect of, "I think you owe that woman an apology, and I think if you take a minute to think about it, you'll do the right thing." She argued with me for a few minutes because she felt like I was attacking her, but to her credit, she walked herself back in that store and stood in line for 10 minutes to apologize. That was a turning point for her, I think. Since then, even when people have legitimately screwed up, she's been more patient, understanding, and polite. I'm grateful she was open to my critique because I have known other Karens in my extended family, and I don't know if I could be with someone like that. Story 20. My mom is a Karen. She literally cannot help herself but to tell others her opinion. She genuinely sees it as doing everyone a favor. It destroys her relationships with my siblings. None of my other siblings will talk to her. A few years ago, we went out to eat. The restaurant served bread and butter before the meal. The butter was whipped. My mom, the former dairy farmer's daughter, insisted they bring her real butter. The waitress went back to the kitchen and came back and told her what she had was butter. How dare she? My mom, who apparently is infallible in her ability to detect butter, started acting like a complete ass to the waitress about it. She knows what real butter tastes like. I go to this restaurant often and my kids are there, so my first instinct was to apologize to the waitress. That was a bad idea. As soon as I did, my mom went into a rage about respecting your elders and walked out of the restaurant. To this day, she still won't admit she was unkind to the waitress. Story 21. This is going to get buried, but it's a juicy one. I was married to Karen, and it was absolutely embarrassing and cost me many good friendships. I was in the military, and she would continually cause drama with the other wives, wear my rank on her sleeve, and was the first person to judge. She always had the attitude that she was better than everyone else, and still does from what I've heard, and flip out on servers, and I would have to straight up sneak up to have to tip them. Well, after a few different duty stations and a lot of burnt friendships, I was getting tired of it, and I would look forward on going to my last deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. On my last one, she decides to cheat on me with my best friend. Gotta love it, and I am immediately told about it. I'm not sure if it was because I was well liked or she was well hated. Anyway, this was my thank God moment. I can be the first one in my family to get a divorce and not get judged too hard for it and end my 10 years of absolute misery. So fast forward to today, my ex-best friend, thanks for the solid dude, and my ex-wife ended up getting married. But if there's one thing you don't do, it's cheat on your deployed husband. This is very poorly looked upon by everyone in the military, and you'll be excommunicated by the community. And the other thing you don't do is start a marriage based on cheating. So from what I heard, not that I really give a crap, is that she is divorcing him for cheating on him, and she is no longer allowed to be on the post for shacking up with another married dude while his wife was deployed. The circle of shame continues. Also, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and there were a lot more repercussions for them because of the initial instance that happened while I was deployed.